Oh, you're bad. No, push your button.
We have enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, I would entertain a motion that we adjourn. Go ahead, Ms. Shawnee.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Okay, second. Okay, Ms. Scott.
Mr. Mayor, I second.
Have a motion second. Vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
And now we're going to a work session.
All in favor of a work session? Just vote.
Oh, we get to vote if we're in favor of a work
No.
session?
It's not.
Is it? Well, he should ride. But really, that's it's colder, that's why we're.
Colder upstairs?
No, it's pretty nice up there. Did you say is it colder upstairs?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, it's pretty good. Yeah.
First time I tried taping a battery to this thing, it actually makes it more stable.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't know how long downstairs would be or if this thing would run out of juice, so.
How long does the battery usually last, just like as the phone?
About 2 hours.
Oh, that's not so bad.
It's recording in 4K.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So
very good.
it can get hot, especially in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? When you get off your run, there's a whole bunch of students. Let me know, because she's a sweet lady.
Feel free to forward though, and I can redirect.
Well, and that's why people love us, is because there's no reason to take the time. Well, good, good, I can't wait to see her in there. No. And the other thing is, she turned them in, but we didn't know if they're gonna, like, yeah, I encourage her. They said a couple days outside. Well, we park in the same place, but instead of walking to the sliding doors, there's that.
Yeah, to see if it's worth 2 hours.
That would be around sooner, it's still privacy. Yeah, and it's, I mean, it's a push button, it doesn't automatically do this. It automatically opens, so, okay? I'm gonna get back there. It doesn't matter. I'll share.
No.
Is there Diet Dr. Pepper in there?
No, because we don't have anybody that works here that needs reset anymore.
I drink it, no one just stocks it for me though.
I work here, I think.
I was an important.
Was there a regular?
Oh, yeah, there is regular.
Well, appreciate everybody being in here for the work session. This is listed as Upper Turkey Creek project update. You'll find out we don't have much of one, but I was asked in the council meeting to provide one, so we're going to provide you what we have. And then really kind of just try to get your head wrapped around some concepts, some ideas, to convey to you some of the things that are rattling around in my head and happening for the last 2 years, and ultimately try to get you to start to think about what you're going to need to make a decision about the core project and or a creek project.
Can you pause for a second?
And it needs to.
They just called you out.
I'm embarrassed.
So,
They're open now.
so here's the status of the core project. So we're almost at 35% design. At 35% we get married. That's when we sign a project partnership agreement. We should have 35% in late May, maybe early May, maybe before then. We don't know just how the core works. What I believe locked down is that we're going to have until late summer, early fall to make a decision. Meaning they're going to give us a window of time from when they give us what they give us and when we have to choose to move forward. A couple things that I can tell you that we have that aren't facts but are going to change is that in 2022 they took the 2015 project, which is the basis for the current project. The current project is not the 2015 project. The current project is more than the 2015 project. But they elevated the 2015 project into $2022 and it came in at about $110 million. There are contingencies built in there. That's $71.5 million for the Fed share, which is 65%. They have 24. They need 47 more, which we'll talk about that in a second. SMAC would pick up 75% of the 35%, which would be about $29 million. And the city would pick up $10 million. There are things that the county and the Corps will not pay for that we have to pay for. And so that number could change. That's just the number on the piece of paper when you go, what are the percentages? We have to pay for utility relocations. We're going to have to pay for a few other things that they don't pay for. So, but based on pure numbers, that's what that looks like. Not included in that budget of things that have changed are the cost of real estate, the cost of any sort of embargoes or tariffs. In the 2015 project, there was no bridge replacement. We've been told that both bridges, Merriam Drive and Johnson Drive, will need to be replaced to accommodate this project. The cost of that is not included in this. Also not included in this is if you're going to elevate the Johnson Drive Bridge, you're going to move Merriam Drive to the east. You can't have buildings and roads in the same place. So I don't know what the project costs. They're not telling us what the project costs because they don't know what the project costs because they don't really have a project completely done yet. But we could safely say that this probably, as of now, is a conservative estimate of what this project's going to cost. And so then let's talk about the Fed share of this. The plan up until November was that we being the feds, were going to go and request the additional dollars needed for the Fed share as part of what they call a WRDA budget. That's a water resources bill that comes out every 2 years. Congress is not mandated to do it, but that has been the general practice, is that every 2 years there's a water resources bill. That is the funding source to pay for this project. That is where this project languished for many, many years, was in WRDA appropriations. The money we have is from Biden's bipartisan infrastructure bill. Anyone that is paying attention will know that the current regime has made great efforts to dismantle that key piece of legislation. And that $24, let alone the 47.5 that we need, assuming this number is the right number, that 24 million may not be available because it's not sitting in someone else's bank. It's still sitting in Treasury. And there is an opinion at the Corps that they've essentially been told, don't come by the administration, don't come looking for money. We're looking for money because they have things they need to pay for, tariffs, tax cuts, priorities that the current regime is, looking for money for. So there may not even be the 24 million when this is all said and done. So that's just facts, right? That's just is what it is. If they don't do it 26, the next opportunity based on current practice would be 28. There is still the current regime in power in 28. So it's quite likely that 30 would be the next time the rest of this money would be available if they can't get it some other way. So that's just facts. What they have at 35% does not tell us whose building's going. We have some extent of the construction area, so we could say that there would be impacts on some property, but we don't know, are you taking the back 10 foot, are you gonna take 2 parking spots, or do we need the whole thing? The project is currently, literally as we speak, in what they call VE process. This is actually pretty impressive. This is one of the more impressive things. Federal government projects over a certain dollar have to go through a value engineering process, which is that they have to go get a third-party consulting firm that basically tears apart the whole project to value engineering. Unlike most value engineering that we are familiar with, which is to say we don't have enough money to do this project, let's go look at the finishes and say, why are we doing gold finishes when we can do silver finishes or whatever we want to say. They actually go in there and they're looking at value both ways. So value is benefit and cost. So they're in there and they're tearing through the whole project, or at least the 35% draft plans, to look for a variety of options of why are you using gold when you can use silver? Why are you using dirt when you can use I-beams? Why are you using I-beams when you can be using concrete? They're looking at road reliability. Sure, they are actually looking at that. They're looking at going in
The
because
core is, or the third party?
the third party is because the creek is a lot of shale. So there is one of the items that they're working on. We sat in a room with them last Monday. There's about 20 of them, and as you can imagine, anybody who puts 4 years worth of work into a project and then has 20 people that want to tear the heck out of it, you know, you kind of get a little defensive on some of those things and go, well, we've already looked at it. Well, they're like, oh, yeah, we're gonna look at it. And so they're not just looking to decrease costs, but they're also looking to say, hey, if you're putting in $20 million to take a C situation to a B, you know, you put it in another 2 and take that C to an A. That's value, right? So they're looking at a variety of things. And because of that, we don't know exactly even what the project looks like, because they have a list of about 25 things that they're going in there, some of which are more dramatic than other ones, of how does this make sense? Because when we're looking at a project that exceeds $100 million, there's a lot of changes you can make to save money. You can save $5 million, that's $5 million. So all of that to say, we don't really have great detail to share with you on where we are with the core project. However, we will have a decision that needs to be made at the council level over the course of the summer, starting in late spring until the end of summer. That's the window of opportunity that the council's gonna have to internalize whatever information they need to internalize so that we can make a decision. That's what I want to address. That's what I want us to be thinking about and to start thinking about. So I'm gonna throw a bunch of just random stuff that you rattles around in my head because I don't have anything more on the core project really to give you, but.
I know on paper, SMAC is committed to their share. How mad will they be if their share is really $3 million?
Mad. And it's not just SMAC, it's gonna be all your neighbors, all your elected officials in other cities that may not get SMAC funds for a decade. Absolutely. When SMAC committed ride or die with the city, this was not the cost of this project. Right? So, yeah, I mean, so they are interested in a efficient creek project also. Whether the core is the efficient creek project remains to be seen. However, they are thus far committed to the fact that they have said they would partner with us, so the decision will be yours. They will not, at least thus far. I don't know where the threshold of pain is on these numbers, but they will not step in and say, hey, no, because they committed to do this project.
What is max budget per year?
I don't know the answer to that.
They have all different kinds of portions of money, but like flood control would be what, 25 million,
So what was
I
thinking
think, per
25?
year, that they, and cities have to apply for it.
So, I mean, we would eat up a little, could eat up a little over a year's worth.
Yeah, I would suspect that if we're gonna get this much money from SMAC, we're gonna probably either cash finance or borrow, and they're gonna give us $5 million a year, $7 million a year. They're not gonna give us,
Yeah,
they're not gonna empty the coffers out for us.
So, I mean, relative to what their annual funding is.
Yeah, we went.
We
Well,
can't.
we might be done with SMAC money for a while.
Yeah, my guess is when we do the Creek project, we probably will not get SMAC funding
For a decade.
at least, yeah, would be my guess.
We can't just clean out all of Johnson County, that's
Yeah.
not even
No,
part
sure.
of our cities.
Yeah, and those are great things to hear, those are things that you're going to be tasked with making a decision on when we have good information to make a decision.
All of
it. If we just say, oh, okay, we decided we want to do it. Oh.
But also, those other cities got all their upstream projects done. So, when I think about it that way too.
Although I will say, they have all these pots of money, and right now, all the money is going, all the cities are applying for replacement of corrugated metal pipe. Flood control projects have gone down. They have all these ones that people have applied for, they're not seeing all this interest, because they've got a lot of them done. So, it could, it just depends on the city's money and interest.
If all of the real estate in this area were magically up for sale, what would it total up to?
We're gonna get to those those are the type of questions I'm gonna ask.
$1 million is.
You can buy a lot of properties.
So, I'm gonna throw at you just a bunch of random things here, so let's back up, because I think in order to get what we need, which ultimately what your staff needs to know is, what do you need to know to make a decision? Whether that's relative to the core project or something else. So I'm gonna try to kind of guide us through that as best I can. Not looking for any answers, but just at some point, I'll need the answers to that. If you have them, that's great, we will write them down. So I'd say, let's back up and say, okay, so really what are we dealing with here? We have a creek situation in this community. The creek situation is that we have a creek that runs right through the middle of our community, and it impacts downtown. When it floods, and when it doesn't flood, it impacts downtown, because it runs through the middle of our city. That creek left its banks in downtown 51, 58, 61, 68, 77, 83, 86, 93, 95, 96, 98. Over the course of 50 years, on average, twice a decade, that creek left its banks downtown. The last decade of that 50-year period, it left it 4 times in 6 years. At the end of that 6 years, that is when we went to the Corps and said enough is enough, we need help. Because it had flooded 4 times in 6 years. At that time, when we went to them, what we asked the Corps was, hey, we need to protect our existing businesses because our existing businesses cannot operate down here. So that is what the Corps project and the Corps mission is. It is to protect existing businesses. Actually, it's to protect existing businesses from 1998. But that is the mission of the Corps project, to protect existing businesses. Facts. Adjacent properties to that creek are in the floodplain, and they have to pay flood insurance. There's a premium to operating a business down along the creek. Net flood risk prevents reinvestment in those properties and in communities. We have turned away numerous businesses that have said, hey, we want to go downtown, and we want to do this, and we want to do that. And at some point, there is a tipping point on the investments you can put in those properties to where you have to get it out of floodplain. It's just not feasible. People go down and say, hey, I'll go down, hang out with Shawnee and open up a brewery because they can't operate our community. All that's correct so far, right? So that's our creek situation. We've got negative impacts that the creek poses to our businesses that are, and a couple residents that are along. Also in 98 started, if you look at that, you look at when these floods started, that all coincides with the build out of Johnson County. Impervious surface increased, lots more water in the creeks. In '98, as a result of all of this, we started doing things a little bit differently as a county. We started less impervious surface, we started doing retention, detention for development, where we had straightaways, we put riprap, where we had riprap, we started to make some changes in the creek profile and how much water we sent to the creek from a development standpoint. Also a fact that's not on there, the creek has not left its bank in over 26 years downtown Merriam. Just facts. What's that mean? Hell, I don't know. But it hasn't left it for the longest period of time in the last 75 years. We've asked residents on numerous occasions, prior to the creek prior to the core showing back up, what we should be doing downtown. How should we be setting our priorities? 2019, in prep for our comp plan, which is a land use plan, we asked our residents to stretch their minds and think about how we should be planning for the future and the development of our community. We asked 3 actions you think would help improve the overall quality of life. Not money questions, improve the quality of life. It's kind of a heady question. The number 1 action, provide downtown the opportunity to attract a wider variety of businesses and customers. 70%. I mean, it's 10% more than the next one, which is add some infrastructure that's a hell of a lot easier. 10%, 70 over the next one. 70% of folks, as part of our comp plan, said that we should provide downtown the opportunity to attract a wide variety of businesses and customers. We got a little bit specific on the next 2 questions. We asked level of agreement with the following statements. Develop a plan that directs future growth and development in appropriate areas. We did say downtown, but downtown's an appropriate area. Almost 80% strongly agreed or agreed. We did get specific on the 3 questions, circle back to attract new retail development to downtown. That's 77%. 77% we need something new downtown. Use local tax resources to protect downtown from flooding. 74%. That's over 2/3. That's 3/4. If we trust statistics that said we should protect downtown from flooding. And then the next question, improve appearances in downtown Merriam Drive, 71%, still over 2/3. So that looks to me like if we look at provide downtown the opportunity, how do we provide the opportunity? I think if we assume that we have some educated residents, we have to do something to address downtown flooding, and then we need to attract new retail development so we can improve the.
I wonder what the answers would be if it was spent $100 million.
Sure, absolutely. If we would have known, we would have.
Because none of this has any price tag.
It does not have a price tag.
Well,
So
spent $9.6 million.
$110 million of taxpayer money.
And we still pay for it in one way or another.
Yeah, you're both.
Yeah, it's all of our money. We might only have the responsibility for the 10 of it, but because we're the triggermen on it,
Right.
we're the triggermen on all of it. If it's 110, if it's 90, if it's
110, it needs to have an economic payback.
so
We can't
That's-
necessarily
I disagree with that.
Yeah.
coming out of this
Public
route,
safety
coming out of
issues.
the comp plan, we were going into our every 3-year citizen satisfaction survey. So we looked at this information and we said we probably need a little bit more information. Again, this is before the core showed back up. This is when, if you recall, those that were on council, we were starting to put slides in the budget presentation with all of the money that we were gonna spend downtown on 5701 and the studies and the master plans. And we had hired BHC to do figure out where we could bench and other variety of things we could do that we could start to redevelop downtown. But we wanted to ask some additional questions. So we did in 21. Agreement with the following statements regarding community issues. Merriam should focus on revitalization and redevelopment of downtown corridor between Johnson Drive and 55th. Revitalization and redevelopment. That's not saving what's down there. That's revitalization and redevelopment. And you got 68%, 2/3 of people strongly agreed and agreed that that's exactly what we should be doing. We asked about priorities. The priority, highest priority is clearly a grocery store. We're working on it, I promise you. Number 2, 42% of number 2 highest priority is revitalizing downtown. If you take first, second, third priority, that's 95% of folks saying that's what we need to be doing. We need to be revitalizing downtown. So then we came back and we asked, we weren't sure if people understood exactly what that meant. So in 23, we sent out the 24 survey, and we were a little bit more pointed. Merriam should move in the direction of a future downtown that is considerably different than present downtown. Considerably different. Not the same, considerably, not revitalized, considerably different. 82% of residents said absolutely. It's the number one priority for strongly agree. It's the number two priority for agree. Over public art, over burning crap, over single hauler, over multi-million-dollar investment into a grocery store. It's the number one thing 3 years later. I'll even go as far as to say, if you look at what it was in 21, you had 26% were neutral and 6% said no. That's important when you look at no. How many people are against those other things versus downtown? You got 26% of people that said, hey, you shouldn't give multi-million-dollars for a grocery store, even though it's the number one priority. It's a polarizing issue, right? You've got as many people that strongly agree with that as saying you shouldn't do it. That's not the case with revitalizing downtown. But it's 26% neutral and 6% are against it. 3 years later, 14% neutral, 4% are against it. The older that shit gets, the less people want to see it. Plain and simple. Take that for what it is. It's a survey. If we trust statistics, that's what it says. What's the priority? Revitalizing downtown, 65% say that we should be doing first, second, or third priority. Incentivizing grocery store, I promise you we're working on it. Single hauler, you know we're working on it. We're still burning stuff. And public art program, fully funded. This is on the list of stuff that needs to happen. What does it mean? I don't know. These are the people that vote for you. You have to decide what that means. So the question I have is, if you're going to spend millions of dollars on a creek project, not a core project, could be a core project, but on a creek project, what you need to ask yourselves, what are your preferred outcomes? What are the things that you want from a successful creek project? I don't know what those things are. Are they protecting existing businesses? Are they protecting future businesses that aren't there? Are they getting so people don't pay flood insurance? What are the things that are preferred incomes, or outcomes? What should downtown look like at the conclusion of that successful project? When we show up at a ribbon cutting and somebody says, hey, $110 million project, what am I looking at? And we say, well, you see that building over there that hasn't been painted in 50 years and needs the roof replaced? On the back side of it, there's a 12-foot wall. That's what you bought. Is that what we want? Are our residents, is that what they want? I don't know. Got surveys that say maybe they don't. What should that downtown look like 5 to 10 years after it's successful? Even if it's a core project. 5 to 10 years after we go through multi-year process, making a lot of people mad with a core project or some other alternative project, what should downtown look like 5 to 10 years after that? Should it look like it's looked for the last 50, 60 years? I don't know, that's up to you. That's up to your constituents. What do you think they want?
These rhetorical or just?
No, these are real questions. They're up to you. You have to decide the answers to these questions. Because if you go with a core project, there might be pieces of development, a future downtown that you're not going to get, or you're certainly not going to get anytime soon.
Are these the things you want right now?
No, there's just the things, I'm not planning to walk out of here thinking, you just need to be thinking about them, and you can communicate them with me when you have them, because what we need to know is, what do you need to make your decision? What do you need to know from the core? Yes, sir.
So my question is about the core, like, is their goal of their project to their 35% of the way towards designing, is it to remove all the houses or commercial buildings downtown from the floodplain, or is it?
So the core project is as contemplated from 2015. We are in the middle of perhaps a change, which I'll address, was to not eliminate it. So the floodplain FEMA flood maps, that's this agency.
Mm-hmm.
And those are governed by NOAA and FEMA, and Brian can answer all of it if you have one more specific detail. The Corps is independent of all that. The Corps does projects to address flood in. So the core project, as currently contemplated, is to get a certainty of 83% that all of the properties affected currently in the 1%, the 100-year floodway, there is an 83%, 82.9% certainty they will not be inundated in the 100-year flood. Did I say that right? Okay. So that's what I have lovingly referred to as slide ruler stuff before you came on council, because that's all statistics stuff that it hasn't flooded in 25 years. We're gonna spend how much money? I'm still paying flood insurance because I'm still in the floodplain. But you're gonna tell me statistically I can sleep better at night, but I'm still paying, right?
I mean, I think I've told you before that I'm not comfortable even spending the $10 million of Merriam residents' money if it doesn't fix the floodplain issue.
Correct.
If it doesn't open up avenues for new business
Right.
and alleviate flood insurance, because that to me is a non-starter.
And we have conveyed that to the Corps, and so this is a very recent development, very recent. What the Corps has done thus far is say, hey, here is the project that is authorized by Congress. And so we'll imagine it's like my wall. We're gonna start at Long John Silver's, down on Shawnee Mission Parkway, and we're gonna come all the way up to the defense bus line. We've got a 10-foot wall, and an 8-foot wall, and an 11-foot wall, and a 13-foot wall, and a 10-foot wall, and a 9-foot wall. That, based on our flood modeling, is going to reach the 83% certainty to get it out of the floodplain. We have said, we ain't doing that unless we're getting people out. There's no way we can go on the other side of that crappy building, that wall's what you paid 110, you're still paying flood insurance. So they call that a betterment. So what they have designed on top of that is how much extra wall needs to be put on top of that wall to get us to FEMA certification. So we're gonna pay 65% of that lower piece of wall, and we're gonna pay 100% of the upper piece of wall. It's called a betterment. Are you tracking with me so far? Okay, so that is going to add, that's gonna add up real quick, right? Because we're adding a bunch of wall on top of existing. Brian has done a good job. FEMA wasn't even a part of this process until we brought FEMA into the process. Brian reached out to FEMA and said, you need to be a part of this process because we need to know exactly what you guys require. Because the Corps isn't building FEMA standards, they're building the Corps standards, which is different than FEMA standards. So, that's kind of been known for about 1.5 years, 2 years now, that that's our expectation. That's how they've been designing it. What the Corps came to us a month ago, maybe less than a month ago, and told us is that there is some sort of proof, process, something.
Standard operating,
Yeah.
standard practice.
That if the Corps says that this gets you out of the floodplain, FEMA generally will go, okay, that's cool, you're out of the floodplain.
Generally, it
They
will.
bring to all the floodplain.
Without the betterment.
So just real quick, what that is Pete Corps says that they can demonstrate it's an 85% likelihood, then it has been typically the practice of FEMA that they will accept that as a certification.
And that difference is a 0.04 of a foot. It's 2 more inches on the wall that they're already designing.
So that's a huge positive for the Corps. That is a huge positive for the Corps project. So
For us financially.
Well, and to be clear, $110 million includes no betterments. $110 million is just what they projected the Corps will.
I'm just saying, right, that for us financially.
Well, it keeps us at 110 or whatever it is.
Yeah,
as
but it doesn't
opposed
make
to-
it 175.
Right, the 2 bridge replacements and moving the road money.
Oh my God, can we just
Yeah.
say, that's good news? That's
So-
good news.
So that's where, that is the direction the Corps is heading
Well,
at this
it's clear
point.
that, I mean,
So the hope is that that at least is one thing that we can check off of the core project that would be beneficial. Well, there's many things that are beneficial, but that's one that wasn't going to be there before, that we were going to have to pay an extra betterment for, that we may not have to pay. Or if we have to, we're paying for 2 inches of levee instead of literally 3 foot of levee.
So how far out of the floodplain do we need to be to attract a major development? To get somebody.
Well, we just need to be out of the floodplain, so if we're at 85% and we get, the maps get redrawn, and the floodplain now is in the creek, all of the flood is in the channel of the creek. It's all developed. It's all ready to do whatever we or anybody else wants to do.
So I also want to frame this as a public safety issue. I know we're talking a lot about the economy and that kind of stuff too, but, and I think a lot of the work has been done upstream by other cities and other projects. That means that this creek hasn't come over its banks since '98, so it's probably a lot safer than it was, especially considering there are trees growing out of it now in our floodplain.
And downstream is probably the most impactful. We are Upper Turkey Creek, there is a Lower Turkey
That
Creek
is
project.
really
That's
not
about
a lot of work.
Yeah,
that is local,
that's
yeah.
about a $190 million project that's down at Southwest Trafficway. And that, from all of the people that have been around and see it, that actually just finished not that long ago. It's been phased,
Yeah.
but it just got completed. The furthest north extent of it just got completed. Like that's the one where there's a tunnel that goes, Southwest Traffic goes under, and goes up, and they found cars in it and all sorts of stuff. If you ask
It's all
people,
the way to the pond.
yeah, it goes right again. And so I have always been told from the people that have seen it flood is that it backs up. It's not water coming so much down, although that's where the water comes from. It's that it can't get out.
Right.
And so whether that has fixed a lot of this, I certainly don't know. I know this is the longest it hasn't flooded since cities started settling, so
Right.
take that for what it is. But so the issue that we need to know is you're gonna get presented a project by us or the Corps or somebody in late March that, let's assume it takes all the properties out of the floodplain. Let's assume it's $110 million. Although, again, if you're replacing bridges and things like that, I don't know how to say it's 110, but let's just, for the sake of argument, it's 110. And it's that, is that good enough? I mean, are we, hey, cool, we're ride or die on that? Like, that's fine. If the Corps here, we're gonna trust the Corps. Or do you need other information? Again, whether that's from the Corps, like, hey, I need to know a cost, not like a range of it's 110 to 200. I need to know it's 113 million. Do we need to know absolutely that we're getting out of the floodplain? Is that a deal breaker if it doesn't? You know, like, we need, so we can start to prepare, because if they have extra work to do that's not part of their 35% process, we need to tell them, hey, hey, I'm sorry, this might be part of the 47% plans, but you don't have any project if you don't get this. So.
Why would we do this project if it doesn't get us out of the floodplain, first of all?
Good question.
And second, like, you would be disrupting those bridges being replaced, 2 significant arteries in the city. My fear would be that we would start this project and then, let's say, perhaps the administration decides to do something with funding for infrastructure projects, and our funds go away, and we're stuck with a 1/3 finished project and no bridges.
We could more likely, what would happen is we would have a fully designed project, and maybe the utilities are moved and we paid to move, and the project doesn't go anywhere for 10 years.
Okay.
That would be more likely. I don't think that we would run the risk. What we're shooting for, and I keep saying we, it's the Corps, is to issue one contract. To issue one contract for the whole project means we have the money.
Okay.
Not to do it, because you could do this one and then this one and chase the money, because generally, they always give you the money once you start. Well, generally, there's a lot of generalities that don't apply anymore, right? So yeah, we would likely say we want one contract. That's the only way we're doing it, because then we know that the money's been spent.
And the RFP and the bid, like that all goes through the board.
Core does all of that, but
Okay.
we signed an agreement. We can certainly
Right.
have some stipulations, Jason.
Looking farther down the road, is it irresponsible for us to do a project where we approach developers or developers approach us and the Corps told us that it's only 85% out of the floodplain, but then you say there's email who says, oh, okay, I guess that gets you out of the floodplain.
So it's not 85%, meaning like you have surface area that's 100% and 85 is out of it. It is a level of certainty from a statistical probability that it will flood.
Right.
I mean, so you would have to build, like, you're never gonna get to, I mean, I guess you could get to 100, but I mean, building to 100 is not required. FEMA from a core project is apparently okay with 85%. So they will say, okay, if you build 85%, we'll look at it and we will likely certify it and say, yeah, this isn't the floodplain. I am not an engineer, but seeing that it hasn't left its banks in 25 years, do we really need 10-foot walls on both sides of the creek to make sure it doesn't, like, have we just not had that much rain in 25 years that we would get that much rain that we need 10-foot walls on top of already where we're at?
How do we get it certified that the maps are right and the problem hasn't been fixed?
Well, so the current flood maps are from 2009. I'm not sure exactly when the study is. I want to say Johnson County is in the process of developing new flood maps.
And new rain data, that's,
They're doing that. They're working, it is involved with the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's.
Oh, okay, so
It
it's,
is, yes,
okay.
they have been in
yeah, we
touch.
have the county plugged into our
They're all
process.
plugged
Okay, so
in.
it's
And we're
not-
running old maps and new maps, so
Okay.
we're running them side by side.
Yes,
Okay,
they're
so we're not gonna see necessarily a new 1% floodplain if this doesn't go through before we can think about
We
this.
have draft new maps,
Oh,
and they're not that
They're
different.
not.
I mean, it removes some stuff down south, but it also puts some stuff in.
Okay,
So it's not, it's certainly not what I thought it was when it's like, hey, man,
Yeah.
it flooded in 25 years, I'm not sure any of this
That's
is flooded.
surprising to me. That's really surprising to me.
Which is suppressing
The
too.
maps haven't shifted.
I have another question, unrelated, really. Is the,
Well, good for them. Yeah.
originally, my understanding was the Corps was limited on what they could spend money on, and it was to protect existing businesses.
Sure.
Has that mandate or limit changed, or could it change?
It has not changed. They are playing within the margins of that mandate. That's a mandate from Congress. It doesn't just come down, hey, here's your money.
Yeah.
They have authorization to accomplish a mission. The mission is to, and it's like, I mean, it's spelled out, it's 82.9% certainty to protect existing business, I mean, it's spelled out. What is built into there is there's wiggle room, if you will.
I'm just saying, if we wanna play common ball and go off the rails, do we lose access to order?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely,
I
absolutely.
mean-
Yeah, Core is not going to go, hey, you can have our money, what do you want to do?
I know, but I mean, there's still a lot we can do with the other $40 million or whatever pot was between us and Smite.
That they are not, we have pressed them on that, we've asked them to go back and look at options that were explored prior to 15, because there were, essentially, we looked at several things from 02, when I think the project started, until it was approved in 15. We looked at dredging and going down, we looked at widening, we looked at going down and widening, and we looked at buyouts. And so because of the proximity to the flooding, buyouts were almost immediately taken off the table. And because of that, that became that was the mission, was to protect existing businesses, right? It's not an inconvenience when it's flooded 4 times in 6 years. I can't conduct business down here. So, you know, that issue was we have to protect existing businesses. So that is part of the main. They get itchy when we buy those properties downtown, because what it does is when you take those properties out, it messes with a very slim benefit cost ratio. So there is a BC ratio, and because it is so low, that is part of why it never got funded, and we assumed it never would get funded because it was so low, because the BC ratio was like a 1.2 compared to like New Orleans or North Carolina or any of the other places that are after that same word amount. And so it was like, no way in hell this is ever going to qualify. Part of what's put in that BC ratio is the value of the property that you're saving, the value of the businesses. So when you take those out, even if it's because you need them for the project, which is why we have reserved buying properties downtown that we need for the project. I mean, all those projects, all those properties that are on the creek bank, we need some and or all of them. So that doesn't bother them that much, because that's going to be taken out of the BC ratio. Does that make sense?
No, I mean, I think we talked about it previously, and I thought it would come out of the meetings, but.
Yeah, they are very conscious of that BC ratio, because that's part of what they have to. So they have to do what's called a package, which is to go back and kind of justify this additional money that they do. And that's a whole process, it's a whole report, it's a lot of just engineering stuff. And part of that is the BC ratio. Right? It's an updated BC ratio that says, hey, we don't have enough money. We have a project, we're this far on it, we need some more money. And that packer is part of how they justify any changes that are in there, but it still has to be within the mandate. So there are things, so like the bridges. Bridges weren't really part of the 2015 plan. Those bridges have to be included in that packer, because that's a change, changing of the street, changing any of the profile of the street. Those are all changes, so those have to be vetted through that process. I don't know where the wiggle room is, but there's a little bit of wiggle room, and I think we've got them slammed up against the wall of wiggle room.
So I think it probably would be really important to hit that threshold where we are able to look at the floodplain and remove properties from it. Because like, if we don't do that, sure, it will make people's risk, much lower. We've got a 1.2% chance of being flooded instead of 1% chance. But where people actually think about it is if they're all of a sudden paying less of their flood insurance, and that happens, that's just like a switch, right? And so that's one way. Like if we can't do that, then people will think, well, you're just paying all this money, and I'm having to pay the same amount to do that every month.
Yeah, we've shared with them. I've been pretty vocal with them about all of these points I've made with you for the last 3 years. And why would we and our county partners spend $50 million at the local level? What's it cost, one, to buy all of it? What's it cost just to pay everybody's flood insurance for the next 50 years? Right? I mean,
It costs $50 million to do that. Like, let's just do that instead. Yeah.
Is anybody else concerned about losing access to the creek as an entity?
Yeah, I don't like the idea of a flood wall.
At 10, 12 foot flood walls, the entire length?
the only thing we can do about that is we move the trails up on top of it.
I know.
But you can only do that on the berms, where they put walls in, they're coming back down on the inside.
Yeah, I'm just saying, that's gotta be part of at least our consideration, that's true.
And we've done that, Brian, that's been Brian's mantra. Mine has been flood insurance, and why does this make sense? His has been creek as an amenity. We have pounded that, and pounded that, and pounded that. And they understand it, but I mean, creek as an amenity, when you're trying to contain the creek, it's like, there's only so many ways you can do that.
I want to go back to Bruce's comment earlier. Do we have the economic data about downtown?
I don't have updated, but I gave it to you guys, 3 years ago or something, or at least I
Put
presented.
something in a press release about it when like that 500K was released, I think. So if you were to do the Googles or the chats, it would.
Yeah, so
somewhere.
what we are already doing is we have somebody that is doing a study to explain what agency is.
Oh, we have, we're getting ready to engage HCTV to look at, some alternative ideas for boom flood mitigation. Just simply, cause as Chris has explained, the Corps was really confined within that 2015 study. They had to stay within that. We really can't get out of that, so we engaged HCTV to just start doing some very high level analysis of some other options for downtown.
How much dirt do you gotta bring in, what it costs?
Yeah. So we are engaged them, they're working on it, well, they will be working on it very soon. So that's, just because we felt it would be better to have some options, maybe some options, that we got as kind of a proof of concept to make sure our idea actually works, instead of just, the binary choice of the core project.
Are they looking from Shawnee Mission Drive to the bridge or Johnson Drive?
Downtown.
So, right. So that's probably one of the major differences between the course project that they have to do, because that's what they do, that's the baseline 2015 is, the core project really looks from Shawnee Mission Parkway all the way to Waterfall Park. This will specifically look at downtown.
Yeah, we asked for, could we get hybrid type of deals where we say, okay, wall south of Johnson, is there a way that we can, downtown, we can still interact with the creek? And north and south, put up berms. I mean, that's industrial, and like, can we keep downtown? And it doesn't work. I mean, which makes sense. I mean, you can't have a 2-foot wall here, a 10-foot wall here, expect the water not to come over a 2-foot wall. So, yeah, we have tried to press that. Part of why we have HNTV doing this is that I assume that you're not going to want to punt on a creek project unless you know there is a viable other option or other options. We have had high-level conversations with our partners in the county and said, hey, if we punted on the core project because of cost or because of efficiency or whatever it is, are you guys still on board? And they are still on board. We are grandfathered into a 75-25 split. Current SMAC is not that. Current SMAC is 50-50. Yeah, so, we might be able to negotiate and leverage some of that. I don't know. But yeah, we have been offline. I mean, well, we've been honest about the core, but I mean, we've had offline conversations with our county partners to say, hey, if this thing blows up and goes crazy, we still might want a creek project. Are you guys still on board to do a creek project? And they are very receptive to that. I'm sure the driver that's going to be, hey, is it going to cost them $40 million? Is it going to cost them $20 million? Is it going to cost them 20 or is it going to cost them 10? So I guess if you were handed the core information, and again, it's 35%, you're not going to have all the information that you want. You're going to find out really quick. You just don't get the information that you want from the core. And they expect you to get married very early. So what information specifically do you think you'll want? That's what we're going to need to know.
Well, I'm sure I won't get this, but if this thing all goes great, and it's all up for redevelopment, and we have this beautiful mixed-use thing, and we've got 1,200 apartments and restaurants and breweries and everything else, what's the economic impact?
Well,
That's not going to be part of the project.
I know, but that's really what it's going to take before
Bruce,
I'll
that's
be
gonna be the
satisfied
risk
with moving forward with the project.
that's gonna be the risk you have to take.
I know, I get that, I get that.
I mean, that's
but
Yeah, but the alternative is that you're not going to get any of it if we don't.
If we don't do
any project.
anything, but if we were to do that,
Sure.
is the economic impact of a big project, is it gonna pay the $110 million?
It's going to take a long time to do that, but it might cover our 10 million.
Yeah.
Well, like,
Well, is it all gonna happen in,
Oh, it's it's gonna take 50 years.
Well, no, I also think you have to look at it as an investment in the community.
Exactly, an investment.
Yeah.
An investment.
An investment
And
in the
investments
community as
have
a whole.
a payback.
An investment in the
That's
community as a
not-
whole.
I agree, here might be some of the payback is quality of life.
Exactly.
Some of the payback is quality of life. Now that doesn't mean that's the only payback we will get. And I don't know how to quantify that versus sales tax or property tax that we would have. But yeah, it'll be difficult to get that with any sort of certainty that anybody could be held, they'll be willing to be held accountable for.
Look at it in
Yeah.
property value, look at it in home sales, look at it in terms
Well,
of.
you know, we certainly
you know,
could
like
probably look and
families.
say, hey, this is what commercial rates, I mean, we could probably have Jeff
Well,
do something high
Grand
level.
Station doing for us.
Right, to do
Take
some
that
sort of
first
high
step.
level, but that's gonna be very broad use, and hey, if you brought in restaurants and retail, you know, this is what the square footage generated, I mean, something like that.
Think about it in terms of what other businesses bringing to our retailers across the street, like the impact of it radiates. You know, the health of our community who is walking there, there's a measurable piece of it that is much easier to understand. And then I think there's what I would call the social impact of it, that just makes it a more desirable place, makes Merriam a more desirable place to be.
That was my point earlier when I said that I disagree, but it had to pay for itself back. And I don't know if that's what you meant by that, the economic return. Like, I think, I look at it a lot in the ways of, we're undergrounding utilities. There's not a direct economic benefit tomorrow that says that $4 million we're spending is gonna pay itself back by increased property values, increased property taxes in any measurable term. But it has an unquantifiable quality of life over the lifespan of those being underground, from the safety, from the communication, et cetera, standpoint, that has to be weighed as part of the dollars and cents return as well. And I think that's kind of the holistic look that, I think, I'm not going to speak for everybody, for me, $110 million to reduce the risk of flooding is a non-starter. And so, not just because it won't ever pay for itself back, but it doesn't provide us the opportunities to do the things that our residents want done downtown. Those properties are still technically in the floodplain because we haven't gotten them out, and they lose the creek as an amenity. I mean, even if we got them out of the floodplain and we built those flood walls, are we ever gonna get the development that our residents want, and I think we want to see from our downtown? I think the answer is no.
There was also socioeconomic impact to it
Yeah.
as well, you know, like even the houses along that floodplain, they're never gonna be as nice as the ones that are.
50 years from now, we spend this money, 50 years from now, we shouldn't recognize it.
That's the goal, that's
I
my.
mean, there shouldn't be a used car lot there. There should be a multi-level apartment. There shouldn't be,
Yeah,
you know, whatever's there, it needs to be replaced by massive development.
and we
And then the question is-
appreciate and love our car dealerships.
The question is, do the people of Merriam really want the massive development that will be required to support spending all
Well,
those?
they want considerable change, that's.
Yeah, that's,
We've been pretty-
emphasis on considerable.
And none of us know what that looks like.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the frickin' design
But I think
looks like.
that's part of the.
That's what makes me nervous. I don't even know, we're trying to answer questions and I don't even have a visual, like, design in front of me
Well,
to answer any questions.
All you're gonna get from visual design is a picture that looks like you're standing downtown from a Google map that has a gray wall behind it. That's what you're gonna get, because that's what it is. I mean, that's all, it's not art, it's not, I mean, it's literally, you're gonna have a grass mound back behind the marketplace. You're looking at the marketplace, now you can kind of see the bridge, and you can kind of see maybe the trails over on the other side.
They have an
You're gonna-
Argentine in
You're,
there.
you're gonna see a 10-foot green wall.
Look what's being built along the Kansas
Yeah,
River.
I mean, Yeah, it's not anything architectural to look at, it's literally, it's berms and walls, I mean,
But it's gonna, at least if I can like see a document, that would make me feel better than talking about it conceptually. Yeah, no, not at all. Like some sort of deliverable. You know, like I feel like I haven't seen a product. You know, that's all I'm saying.
well, we certainly can show you schematically what walls and berms look like. Now, most of
I
us.
know what walls and berms look like.
Yeah.
I'm saying from this process, I feel like I have not seen a product of the Corps' efforts. Does that make sense?
You have it.
Well, you'll see that
Exactly.
in-
Yeah, you won't see that, yeah, you won't see
Yeah.
that.
And what you're gonna see is you're gonna see the
what you
cross
wanna
section.
see.
Yeah.
Like,
and
they don't do pretty pictures, I mean, you're gonna
I
get a
don't
cross
care. It
section that
doesn't have
goes,
to
this
be
is what the
pretty
berm looks
picture. It
like,
just
this is
has
what
to
the
be
wall.
Well, they'll show
deliverable.
or whatever, right? And then.
Yeah, they'll show you generally where they're going to be, yes.
Yeah, we'll be able to see now.
I understand how all of this works. I've looked at these things before. I've been on council since
Yeah.
2020, you guys. Like, you don't have
No,
to
but
talk
you're
to me
not-
like I'm an
well,
idiot.
you're not-
You
no,
know?
Well, I'm not gonna see, but I'll do.
You're not gonna get a rendering like.
I have
I'll be able
concepts
to-
and plans.
To know, like, in 10 years, if I go on a walk down a trail, you know, I'm gonna be right next to this flood wall right here.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's gonna.
Yeah, you'll know if you're at the marketplace,
Yeah.
that's a berm, and you'll know if you're standing behind whatever business, that's a wall.
Yeah.
I wanna see how high the berm is. I wanna see how high the wall is. I wanna see what this looks like in practice. So I can visualize the change, the footprint of what my money's getting me. You know, I think that's important to make this decision. And it doesn't have to be a random, you know, lettuce filler like the sketches for the conflict. I think that's an important step of this, and answering technical questions or questions like these is difficult for me without.
Do you want that for the full extent of the creek project? Like every single view that you could have? Or do you just want a rendering, if I'm standing at the marketplace, this is what I'm looking at?
She don't want a window, she wants a floor plan or a site plan that shows 10-foot berm, 9-foot.
So you just
You
want
don't
a view
have to
from
compartmentalize
space.
this whole thing.
Yeah.
They'll have
Shouldn't have
that.
much
They'll have
different than the
that
plan we
before
currently
the
have.
I mean, the 35%.
We already have that.
We have that.
It's
Right.
probably changed a little
I
bit,
don't
but I
need
mean,
like inches to the
Yeah.
cross sections and like, it doesn't have
so
to
you
be-
just want like a flyover that says, this is a wall, this is a berm. The yellow is a berm, like we already have.
Yeah, like here's how tall it is on this side, here's how tall it is on this side.
Yeah,
So it
that's-
doesn't even have to be animated. Like
Yeah,
it
that's
doesn't
all.
even need to be anything like that.
We'll have that, yeah.
Oh, is that roughly the same as the 2015? Because it's only like.
Probably.
What, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
And they'll be all being about the
But I
same
feel like
place.
she has
I
to
like
answer
that.
the
We're
question.
about the same place.
Jacob said it
After
references
I
a
see that.
I think, I hope we're all on the same page, it references kind of where he's coming from, is that if we can't get sustainability out of the well, we can actually build whatever we want down there.
Exactly.
That's the
This
only
should not-
question that matters to me.
That, you know, if we can't do that, then we shouldn't even be doing
I'm with you.
it.
Yeah, they know that's our third grade. If we can't get this out of the
Right,
floodplain,
it's a waste, yeah.
you're not gonna vote.
If it didn't attract the developer, I don't know.
And what a waste of everyone else's time as well.
I think the corner is one.
Yeah, no, we've been very clear. They
But I mean,
understand.
they also have their marshals.
The issue's going to be, well, if, again, this new development is that at 85% we can get certification, that's great. The other issue is that if that doesn't work and we've got to pay for 100% of 3-foot levy, that number's nowhere close, to that 110.
Oh, yeah, and then it's.
So then you're gonna get up to, where's your gag reflex kick in?
Is it $150 million with berms and walls and
Bridges.
Right. And that's pretty close.
If the city goes about doing this ourselves, can we get certified out of the floodplain? Or do
We wouldn't do it otherwise, I don't think.
But so, as an entity, without assistance from the Corps, we can get certification.
We, with enough money, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Or we get parts.
Well, yeah, where, yeah, if we wanted to, we could do our own core project for the full creek. What we're looking at with HNTB is just downtown. We're just saying, hey, it hasn't flooded in 25 years. Downtown is the developable area that, from what we believe the residents want, is the area that we need to know what is option B. If we go ahead, Core wants $200 million, and we're gonna pay $60 million, but for $20 million, we can go buy everybody and bring in 4 foot of dirt, and then it's just a green field, fully developable. I think the council probably wants to know that.
When is HNTB delivering their plan?
I mean, that's it.
They know our timeline.
When is HNTB delivering their plan?
I'd have to go back and look.
Is it
They know
May?
the timeline.
Yeah, they know.
It's May.
Yeah.
Because again,
It's
understand.
right at the beginning of our conversation.
They're not, is not, they
Yes.
will have nowhere near the level of detail to core.
They are conceptual, you can do it, and it would cost you $50 million.
I mean, I think that's the push that we've all beaten around, is like, we're gonna spend $110 million to save $20 million in business.
And that's policy.
I mean, I don't, yeah, I don't.
That's policy. And do you, are you willing to save downtown and not the rest? Are you willing to leave $70 million of federal funds on the sideline if it all costs the same, but their project could take 20 years and we could do it in 3?
Well, I am a little chapped that we spent all this time doing a Merriam drive redesign and went through a whole bunch of, you know, not a whole bunch, but a little bit of grief to like make sure that it was right.
But I'm sure we're all shocked, but at the same time, I wouldn't have felt comfortable potentially leaving 85% of the project on the
Girl, I
table.
know, like, I
Yeah.
understand, but I mean, something has to happen here, right? So,
I don't think any of us, yeah, I mean, I would agree, I don't wanna just walk away onto.
I don't wanna walk away and do
I
nothing.
mean, at the end of the day, we're gonna, I would assume.
Well, I don't think your residents will let you walk.
Yeah.
I think your residents have an expectation you're gonna do something.
Yeah.
The question is, what's the right option? And what are the decision points that we have to make to pivot one direction or the other? What information you need so you feel justified in doing that? Because, you know, you're gonna have some people that you spend $110 million, and go, why the hell you spend $110 million? Well, you get out of the floodplain. You're gonna have some people that are gonna go, when you say, we're not gonna do that project, we're gonna do another. You have $70 million, you're like, you will not win 100% of approval from anyone. And it's likely that the 4 or 6% will be the ones that are here, that are hollering at you about whatever it is. So you're gonna have to be resolute to do whatever you want. Because whatever option you choose, whether it's the core option or some alternate option, you're kicking people out of their businesses. You're taking people's, and you might have to take it, like eminent domain, take it. That we will be required to acquire the property, and we will be given a timeline to do it. So if we have to take it, you will take it from them, which means we will go to court and say, I'm sorry you've been here for however many years, but we need this for the good of the community. That's not gonna be, you're not gonna go home feeling great then. But you're gonna have to do that, because you're gonna have some people that ain't gonna wanna go. And that's gonna happen on either, whatever option you choose, right? So like, you gotta get your head wrapped around what information, whether that's the survey where you can go, hey, I'm sorry, I appreciate you've been a business owner for 40 years, but 82% of people that live in this community, not just work in this community, they don't want you here. We can move you north or south. We can create grants that say, hey, if you're displaced from downtown, we'll try to find you somewhere else to go. Like, we can do all of those things to try to make, you know, we could pass a policy that says, because we don't want to do eminent domain, we'll do an appraisal appraisal and we'll pay up to 40% over appraisal just to make you go away happy. You can do whatever you want. It ain't cheap. But like you have to get your head wrapped around, no matter what we do, somebody's hollering at you.
I need to know the value of the properties in the floodplain, north of Johnson Drive and south of Johnson Drive.
Okay?
Because south of Johnson Drive is captured by the core. And if we're gonna if we walk away from the core project, I'm gonna know what else what we're walking away from businesses.
When you say that, you mean like what's the property worth, like appraised? Okay.
I mean, roughly, that order of magnitude, I guess, because I'm not asking for appraisals on 50 properties.
So I mean, we can pull counter appraisals. I mean, if we don't get real appraisals, that's the only thing we can do.
Yeah, no, I mean, something to know, like, if we're gonna spend X amount of dollars, whether it's core project or non-core project, what are we saving, or what are we, I mean, what are we trying to save?
So what you're looking for is you're looking for a statement that says we're spending $110 million to save $20 million, and that don't make
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, and having that math
Sure.
helps me make a decision in May.
Well, understanding the statement helps us
Yeah,
figure out what
yeah,
you're looking for.
I mean, I don't mind spending money to save properties, but if I can make somebody happy and say, hey, I couldn't save your building, I'm gonna save your business, I'm gonna help you go somewhere else, but we need this property to make everything else work. We're still saving the business, not the building.
Well, we have to pay relocation. I mean, that's all part of the federal act. We have to pay relocation. So anything we pay will be after
Includes
what we already have to pay.
Yeah.
We have to pay reestablishment, relocation
Which we've done.
for all the properties that we bought down there, because if we want to get reimbursed or get credit for them, we have to follow the Uniform Act, which is why we follow the Uniform Act on all of them, because we want to be able to get credit.
With that information, one could then go look at other parts of town that have been redeveloped, and what are those properties worth? And make some sort of extrapolation that would say it's however many it's now, but it's out of the floodplain. Be this much.
Yeah, we certainly could get some ranges on that. That's gonna be tougher because you don't really know what's coming in. I mean, if a chicken and pickle comes in, it takes up a lot of real estate, but that might be the coolest thing that anybody could want.
Right.
Versus a 12-story tower that, you know. So,
I'll
no
give you a
problem.
range.
How many Merriam Grand stations fit down there?
Okay. Well, please be thinking, any last comments, thoughts? Okay. We will be, hopefully coming forward in the next 60 days with something from the core that we can chew on, that we can look at, that we can kind of go, this is what this is what this isn't. I would be prepared to be underwhelmed because we're about 3 years into being underwhelmed at the staff level. So, you're going to be tasked with making a tough decision to get married to somebody wearing a veil. So,
How much time frame do we have for presentations?
you'll have until late September, or October. So
we have 6
what,
months.
the point of having this conversation now is that if there is information that you need or believe you're going to need in May, June, July, August, September, that requires time to get, we can start now, right? Like if there's something you need from the core, we can say, hey, as you're doing all this other crap to wrap all this up, you need to go run the numbers on this because the council needs this information, or they're not gonna vote on it. Or if you need, I think I put in there, like, I think you've got, in my opinion, adequate feedback from residents, but if you wanna go have a downtown master plan, where we go and get stakeholders and all that nonsense and figure out exactly what we're gonna put there, I need to know down to the net sass what it costs. We need time to get all that to get you the information, because the core, they're not gonna wait forever, right? They're giving us a few months, so we need to start working on whatever you need, especially if it's outside of the core. Core, we can call them tomorrow and say, hey, we need this, we need this, we need this. But if we've gotta get consultants, or we've gotta engage the public, we need to start thinking about that so we can plan that out appropriately. Because we wanna get you, the decision makers, the information you will need. Because ones with pitchforks and torches and slings and arrows.
We're talking about marriage, what happens if we're somewhere 5 years from now, and none of us that are in this room now, maybe even a year, the new council wants to get divorced? Is that possible?
I would assume because of the cash basis law, we probably could back out of that. But we will have paid a whole lot of more money because once we sign the PPA, they move on to the next level of planning and we're paying, I mean, like that's, so what we have done thus far, and this is part of being strategic. So when I've come to council and said, hey, we need a little bit more money than because we want to be boundary surveys. What we have approved to, or this year, where we said, hey, we're just gonna pay for half the year. It's I think $560,000 is the cost for our fiscal year 25. We only paid $300 because we are trying to be we don't want to pay more when there's a possibility we will be here at the end of the year. We also don't want to pay for things, or we do want to pay for things that will be useful to us. We own all that data. So if we decide to say, hey, we don't think we want to do it, we have all of that flood data, we have all of that engineering, we have all of that survey data, we have all of that boundary, we know where the utility, whatever work has been done, it's ours. So we can say, we're not gonna go forward with you guys, but can you send us all that crap on a SharePoint file, and we hand it over to whoever the heck we wanna do option B, C, or D with. So we try to be very strategic about what we've moved forward with. So most of the things that we've moved forward with have some value to us if we choose not to go with the core, if that makes sense. So we could part ways and it's not, we're not starting all over, right? So in 5 years we can say, hey, but we likely will have paid a lot of money to get to where we are in 5 years. Because they're not gonna, whether they believe we're gonna get more money from Congress or not, they ain't gonna stop until we're out of it. They will work until they spend their $24 million, which means we will work until we've spent our portion of whatever 35% of $24 million is. So the other thing with the core project that we have to keep in mind, for whatever it's worth, is there is a real possibility, I've said it and I'll say it again, that this is not going to be bang, 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 bang. This is going to be, when it's done, and I mean done like just the project's done, not like we go down there and walk our dogs and drink beer. I mean, the core project's done. We're probably all home. Like, you're into the 30s. Like, I'm certainly gone by that. I mean, so the core project is not going to be quick. So
that's what prompted my discussion, is that we'll make the decisions, which we can do. I garnered you, but it definitely could be some.
yeah, even and I'm talking about the money that's available. If
That's what we want to do.
But that shouldn't preclude us from thinking about the city far beyond our.
Oh, no, not at all. But the point is that I think that might be, for some, part of your calculus to say if it's gonna cost the local chapter, being us in the county, $50 million for this option or $50 million for this option. This option, it might take 10 to 15 years to get done. This one will be done in 4. That might be worth somebody's decision making.
Yeah,
right?
sure, I get it.
You know, where you go, hey, this one gets me the whole creek out and takes 15 years. This one gets just downtown, but we can start developing downtown in the current CIP, right? So, you know, those are going to be things that I think need to be at least mentioned as we try to determine what the best route is. So, quick summary, and it's great because we've already passed all this on to the core because this has been this way from the beginning. Really, if we don't get out of floodplain, it's a non-starter. There's really no point to it. If it doesn't get us to a point of being able to develop properties, it's probably not worth it. $110 million, if that's the number, we're really starting to push our comfort level. That doesn't mean it's a no, but we're really we're starting to get a little GERD. So, those are really kind of the two lines of the same, right? I mean, if the core project can't get everybody out, then that's not so. That's probably the number one. We'd like to keep the creek as amenity. The only way we can do that is either build taller buildings when we rebuild, or put trails on top. That's about. And then we want some sort of deliverable that we can kind of see what the core project looks like from a site plan so we can kind of chew on the impact that it has on the existing world.
I have one more question. If we end up going through with the core plan, or even go at it ourselves, but especially the core plan, who's responsible for maintaining?
That is the drainage board, and the drainage board has been part of this. Steve Roth has been at all of our meetings. He's part of the value engineering process.
Do they currently pull in enough taxes to maintain?
They do
the
not.
process?
They do not. They will have to raise their mill. We just joked about that on Monday with them. But yes,
So that's concern for that.
It's their response, their statutory responsibility. If they choose to not do that, then I would assume they would be in violation of something that would just precipitate a quicker failure of the drainage board. Maybe they'd dissolve and the city would be forced to pick that up. I think, didn't they give us a number of, didn't they say like $40,000 a year?
I can't remember what the only ones, but yeah.
They gave us a number that they thought, like, because just a spitball, because that was a question he asked. He was like, hey, look out of curiosity, where we're at right now. Well, what's the O&M gonna cost? And I think they said, I think it was 40 total.
I think they was,
But it was, you know, I mean, they're very well aware that they're not just gonna build and walk away. They've got to tell us what it requires. And I mean, built into those walls and ditches, there's inspection trenches and all sorts. I mean, these are engineered piles of dirt.
So that might even require the core to hire, drainage district to hire more people to maintain.
It could, well, yeah, if you build a core project or any project like that that requires ongoing maintenance, whether we build it and we assume operation maintenance or they do it, residents are paying for it. The question is just how much are people in the drainage district versus outside the drainage district. But yeah, it's their responsibility and they're aware of that.
If we looked at, and I haven't seen how the impact of the railroad bridge, if a sharp turn goes over, any work ever being done down there on that bridge, should that be removed or straightened out or?
Are you talking about when you come across the tracks, going
Yeah.
eastbound, and there's that turn on at Kessler?
Right, is that, we talked about how much stuff was boulevard, when they opened it all up down street, permitted us to be, overflowing with Merriam. That creek, that big turn's gotta be a big block. That waterfall. Past waterfall.
Where the creek turns.
Well, the creek turns.
Oh, not the railroad.
Yes, well, I mean, the big turn has to go underneath it, so, to change that.
They looked at that like 15, there's whatever is down there, that it is what it is, that is. They're not even going that far, dude. I mean, their sphere of influence stops at, it's really just behind the church meeting. Kind of where it curves right there. They're starting to look at, there's a constriction right there, which is part of why they're looking at the bridge. So the creek curves on the Merriam Drive Bridge and heads north again behind the bus garage. That's one of the narrowest points is just to the east of the Merriam Drive Bridge, back behind, I guess it's Doty's, it's not really behind ours, but it's behind Doty's, behind that bus garage. They're looking, that's one of the things that the value engineering team called out, that's one of their 25 things, is can we go in there and just widen all of that through there and do something with the bridge that they usually cross in the northern part of that lot. That's the furthest extent the project's ever. 55th is, there was never anything that was going to go wrong. But they're aware, they've looked at that, that's part of it. Clearly not the bottleneck that they feel like with the geography or geometry of that conversation. Anything else? Everybody understand the gravity of, the potential decision that we've got to make here, hopefully later than sooner? But but it will have to be made. As you continue to think about that, if there are specific things that you need, want, that we can get you, or at least start hunting on, please let us know, because you're gonna have a big decision to make sometime this year on future of, very least downtown, not the full extent of that creek. Okay? Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Year before, you just leave it there, and then it's always,
Did you just do those prints, or did you do is it on the like Merriam, right, where they do the road prints?
yeah, so we also does the Prairie Link Partners, that one. My schedule allows it.
Yeah, if you're spending all the time your cash, you get to work.
No, I don't have to leave the house until Wednesday.
It probably takes you 14 minutes. Your soccer is important. You're gonna have video on Monday with Mr.
Okay.
Couple guys.
That's fine.
That's cool. Yeah, boom, boom, right on.
That would be neat, I'll bet, yeah. That's a good one. Yeah.
Let me tell you what app I'm downloading.
Yeah, you're definitely fun.
See more. Yeah, maybe I'll just eat all of myself.
You still recording?
Yeah, I was trying to get 10 seconds of AC noise to try to filter it out, if you don't mind. Once folks leave. Or at least the people who are talking. That's probably enough. The AC is a disaster.
Uh-huh.
Noise is a disaster.
Stacy, since she wasn't able to be here?
Yes.
I think she would appreciate it.
You left one over on the table.
What do you do with all the recordings?
Post them to YouTube. Share them with neighbors.
Even the city council ones that are already online?
Yeah.
Yeah, Stacy was sad she forgot the work session when I made sure that no, she appreciated hearing all of you.
Got it ready?
Yep, I think so.
Take it easy.
About having not knowing
Hey, I'm 52.
What kind of plans you want? Detailed plans, you wanna fly over? You wanna? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we should kind of stand over whatever they talk about something.
Dog pile on me. I just wanna see a work product.
Or next week.
Right?